Hey, Helping Analyze Math and History, and we're gonna talk about how to successfully take notes in a class or what you're learning about. So, when you are in high school and possibly middle school, the teacher is gonna speed things up and they wanna try and get through as much learning as they can. So, they don't really have a lot of time to go back and review things to the class. So that's why they make kids take notes, not only to memorize things, but to review when they forget things. So there are many types of strategies and different ways to take notes. The most common ways are flashcards, the Cornell method, the outlining method, and the mapping method. The sentence note-taking and box method are other ways that you can successfully take notes. But we want to introduce another successful way that we have made up that might help in memorization. It's called the Taoping method. So with the Taoping method, it's really good at identifying what needs to be learned, explaining quickly what the learning is, and how you can memorize it. So when you take your next exam or your next test, you can have a picture or something that reminds you of it, then you can fly through that answer. Here is how the Taoping method works. You will be needing to go on a computer for this to work. So, the first thing you gotta do is insert a table. The minimum is a 3 by how many things you want to study, or maybe 4. So we're going to put a 3 by 11 right here. So we have 3 boxes right here. The first box represents the definition. So when you work with the definition, it usually means that you're asking a question or you're trying to define a word. The box right on the right, or the second box, is going to be your explain. So this is explaining what the definition is. It tells you a quick summary of what that definition is. The third and last box is going to be what you can remember. So this is your memorize. So you can add a photo or a few words that will help you memorize. And when you memorize that definition or that picture, you'll be able to answer your next question's quiz. So here's an example where you might encounter a subject while using the Taoping method. The most common are social studies and science. So what happens if we're in a biology class in high school and we have to take a look at the definition and we have to define the word carnivore? What does that word mean? Here comes the explanation part. You explain what a carnivore is. It is an animal. It is an animal that only eats meat and has very sharp teeth. And it can also hunt down other animals to benefit for itself. So, in the explain part, you don't want to do a lot of writing because the teacher is going to move on and you may fall behind. So when you're doing the explain part, you might want to write a little summary of what a carnivore is, for example. So, with the explain part, now we got to memorize something. The memorize is what we can remember about a carnivore. So we can look up an animal on the internet and draw a picture in, or insert a picture in, that can help us memorize what a carnivore is. So we inserted a picture of a tiger because a tiger has sharp teeth and will hunt down other animals for its own benefit, and that's an example of a carnivore. So when you take your next test, when you think of a carnivore, you might think of a tiger, because that's an example. So this is an example of how it can help you in biology. Let's see an example of how it will help you in social studies. So if we're in social studies and our teacher asks us a question for definition, how does the Holy Roman Empire collapse? We're going to put that in right here. So after that, now we have to explain how the Holy Roman Empire collapsed. So this is what we wrote. In 1806, the last emperor of the Holy Roman Empire abdicates from the throne, while Napoleonic France conquers them during the Napoleonic Wars. So that we explained the definition. Now we have to memorize. So we're going to insert an image of a picture that will help us memorize the explanation and the definition. So we put a picture in with two country balls, France and the Holy Roman Empire, and France is looking at the Holy Roman Empire, which means it can help us memorize what the definition and the explanation is. The picture can be anything that helps you memorize what the definition is, so you can fly right through your next exam or quiz. So, this picture actually came from a video that is from 99 Balloons. That's the YouTube channel, and it's re-edited by Nicole Loza, and they did a video on the history of Europe from 1000 AD. That video is actually what France did to the Holy Roman Empire. It collapsed and becomes the Confederation of the Rhine. So, social studies also works for this method. Biology, science, and social studies is not the only classes that work. It also works for language arts and math as well. So here's a language arts example. What happened to Jack when he was elected on page 22 of Lord of the Flies? Jack becomes very obsessed of his power after being elected by the other characters and starts making up harsh rules on the island that affect him in a good way but negative for the others. So when you're using language arts, you can ask a question to memorize something on a certain page of the book and explain a summary of what happened on that page, or what happened when a good scene in the book happened. So if you forget that scene, you can come right back to it. And it relates to a dictatorship symbol, because in the book of Lord of the Flies, Jack starts to make up harsh rules that affect him in a good way, but is negative for others on the island, because they are shipwrecked on that island. So Jack is sort of like the leader, becoming a dictator, for example. Math also works for this one, but instead of doing the math, you memorize the formulas. So here's an example. The volume of a cylinder is pi multiplied by radius squared multiplied by the height. So pi r squared multiply that by the height. And we have an example of SpongeBob at a Milkshake Academy, because volume describes what's inside the shape, how much that cup of milkshake can hold. Because here's an example.
If you want to make a shake, you gotta know how it feels to be a shake. Behold, the Shake Simulator. In you go. Now, march! 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, let's see how the boy turned out.
That was fun. Can I go again?
The Tao Ping method is actually how I started putting up memes and jokes on my channel videos so I can make the math fun and enjoyable. And it can also help people memorize what they need to do when solving a math problem. So that is a good example because it clearly shows what's inside the cylinder. SpongeBob is inside the cylinder. So that is an example for math. But there's one more subject that the Tao Ping method is really good at taking notes with. If you insert a table but add 4 boxes instead of 3, we have 4. This is when you want to learn a language. Because when you learn languages, you gotta memorize the words, how to say them in that language, and what it means. So what happens if we're in Mandarin class and we gotta learn something? What happens if we say we want to learn how to say the word fire in Chinese? Then we have 2 exclamation boxes. We're gonna put for fire, hu or huo. That means fire in Chinese. So then we're gonna put the Chinese character in box number 3 to see what the character looks like. So this is what the fire character or huo means in Chinese, or looks like in Chinese. Now we actually get to put in box number 4, memorize, like a picture of fire. So that's what you can do if you learn a language. You will have 3 boxes if you're learning a language that doesn't include characters. But if it does, then you might want to have 4 boxes. One in English, how to say it, what the character looks like, and what it is. So, language, math, language arts, social studies, and science are all subjects that are going to work for the Tao Ping method. You can even have the Tao Ping method on a piece of paper without being on a computer, because the Tao Ping method is basically a modified version of flashcards. Because back in my science 8th grade class, we have an example right here. We have intensity, means to measure how loud a sound is, the more compression when there's more frequency, and the intensity is basically the amplitude of the sound wave. And we have an example of SpongeBob characters playing as a band, because in that episode, they actually destroy parts of the building because they have a high intensity.
I have a theory. People talk loud when they want to act smart, right?
Correct!
So if we play loud, people might think we're good. Everybody ready? And the 1, and the 2, and the 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, new theory.
The glass on the building shattering is an example when the intensity is high. So, if you ever study with your friend and you want to quiz your friend on it, you can put the card and fold it into 3 sections. So here's a definition. What is the intensity? If they answer correctly or incorrectly, flip the sign over. It means to measure how loud a sound is, the more compression when there's more frequency. That is the amplitude. Then you can have a third one flipped over, and show them an example how to memorize it. So, this is a unique way of how a flashcard works. That is an example, all examples, of how the Tao Ping method works. I hope this video has helped you. Thank you for watching Tao Ping Analyze Math Industry. Like and subscribe. And if you are doing your next quiz or exam tomorrow, then good luck on it.